So again, this is the first neighborhood meeting for the 2021 Street and Utility Improvement Project for the City of St. Anthony. Just a quick agenda for tonight. We'll go over the project location, existing conditions, the proposed improvements. We like to cover a number of common construction concerns, especially for those of you who may not have been involved with the construction project in the past. How the project is going to be funded, how the assessments are calculated, and what you can expect moving forward with those assessments. The project schedule, how you will receive notifications and additional information in the future. And then as Justin has mentioned, we'll open it up for questions at the end. So if you have any individualized concerns, we can certainly address those. So the project location includes Skycroft Drive and Croft Drive between 32nd and 33rd. So this is just north of this year's improvements. So I know a number of you that are online here are familiar with the improvements that had taken place this year. So the existing conditions, again, you guys live on the streets, you know the condition. You can see just with these photos, the project had been previously seal coated, and you can see that, that's wearing off as well. If you zoom in on some of these pictures too, you can see what's called alligator cracking. And that's representative of a poor subgrade, which means a lot of, there's moisture and water getting into your subgrade. Really, the only way to fix that is to then reconstruct. And then for folks on Croft Drive, you guys are also aware, a portion of the road is paved and has received a chip seal in the past as well. The pavement is also experiencing the same distresses. The other thing is with these reconstruction projects, we do try and pinpoint some of those previous concrete roadways and to reconstruct those to meet more of our bituminous roadway standard. So I know a lot of you are familiar with the da-dun that you hear as you drive down the roadway. So with these improvements, we give you a nice clean ride down the road. So for the proposed improvements, we do include replacing the existing sanitary sewer system. So with last year's project on 32nd Avenue, we did replace the sanitary on that roadway. We also stubbed sanitary sewer up both Croft Drive and Skycroft Drive in preparation for these improvements. Since we've paved that roadway, this will give us the opportunity to upgrade that sanitary sewer without disrupting our newly reconstructed road. The reason we do replace the sanitary sewer out there is with age, the existing system does consist of a vitrified clay pipe. Many of you know that clay doesn't usually stand the test of time real well. So if anything, whether it's kind of a compaction issue or any sort of cracking, just gets worse and worse over time. Typically the main culprit with the cracking is tree roots. So tree roots like to get wherever they can find water. So if you do get a crack in that pipe, those roots will start to grow into that pipe. And with this project, we will replace that. We'll put in a plastic pipe, which doesn't crack as easily, and second, you won't get those leaks with the trees or anything else infiltrating into that system. So with the project, we do replace everything within the roadway, which is the main. We also replace the services up to the property line. So what we call that is the utility side would be between your property line and where the main is within the roadway. And then there's also the homeowner side. So one thing we do with these projects as well is we actually televise your individual sanitary sewer service, and we'll televise that fully from the main to your home. And once we receive that information, we'll make that available to you. So what we'll do is we'll actually give you a recommendation as far as what we think needs to be done with your service. It could be anywhere from a cracked or broken pipe, potentially sagging where there's water being held in your service, roots infiltrating into your service, or just if you have a couple of cracks and now the groundwater is getting in there, we'll certainly give you a recommendation as to the type of repair we think is necessary. Other times your service may be just fine between the right of way and your home, but we do like to make that information available to you. We will also make that televising tape available to you as well. So once we finish that during final design, a letter will be mailed out to everyone, and you'll be able to download those tapes as well as the recommendations we have for your service. Now with those improvements, you aren't necessarily required to complete those improvements in your personal service. However, if you do choose to, we will make contractor information available, so you would have some folks that you could contact and get quotes from. And new to St. Anthony within the last year here is if you do choose to make those repairs to your sanitary sewer service, you can include to have those on your assessment. And so that way, instead of paying that larger upfront cost to have those repairs done, it's something that you can then, put those payment, almost like a payment plan with a small interest rate over the course of your assessment. So when we review these televising tapes, this is kind of what you'll see once those tapes are available. It's pretty common to see this clay pipe crack like that. And you can see some of the roots coming in there on the side. That'll just continue to get worse and worse over time. Other issues, you can see there's some infiltration coming in at the joints here. And also sag, you can see that there's some water sitting in there as well because the pipe is actually settled over time. So these are things that we'll bring to your attention that you can choose to have improvements completed if you'd like. So then the water distribution system, it's also the time to upgrade our system. It is an existing 6-inch cast iron pipe out there. It's very prone to corrosion. So since we're out there, we're replacing the sanitary. We do like to upsize the water main to be an 8-inch ductile iron pipe. And the ductile iron is, rated to last far longer, less prone to corrosion. And less prone to water main breaks. So a lot of these areas have high numbers of breaks that Public Works has been out there in the past. So with replacing this main, you'll see less and less of those issues as we continue with these reconstruction projects. And this is just an example of that cast iron pipe over time. It's just very, very prone to corrosion. And when we replace the water main, we will also replace those services up to the curb stop within your property. So everything within the road right-of-way will be replaced. Surface water drainage. So I know a number of you know there actually is not any storm sewer out there along the roadway. So what we did with this year's 2020 project on 32nd Avenue, we did install a few catch basins right at the intersection with Skycroft and Croft, and we've sized those manholes or drainage structures appropriately to accommodate the new pipe that we'll be installing with this year's project. So we'll be spacing those catch basins appropriately to help get that water off the road. And to get it into the pipe so it's not just free flowing from 33rd all the way to 32nd Avenue. So with our street reconstruction, what we do is we'll take out the entire road section, including the curb. We'll also subcut the roadway to allow for a class 5 section and also a sand section. That'll help beef up that road so that you don't see that alligator cracking we had talked about, and this will address those subgrade issues. In addition, we do install a drain tile under that sand section, and that helps to keep additional water out of the road as well. And I know a number of folks may have sump pumps or downspouts that they have at their property. We do install services from those drain tiles, and we stub them out to the right-of-way at your property so that you can either choose to right-of-way, or in the future, you can actually connect the downspouts to your under drains and then connect directly into our storm sewer system. So just a couple of examples of what you can expect. So this photo, they've done the utility work, and now this is the actual sand section. So they're out there grading that. Next, you would see another section, which would be the class 5, which would be followed by the curb and then paving of the roadway. So we try and keep our construction limits as restrictive as possible, but you can see in some areas, we do have to go a little further out just to get those services replaced all the way to the right of way. And then this is just an example of a typical street that we've completed. With these projects, we do put the first layer of bituminous paving down in 2021. And then actually, because we live in Minnesota, we like to wait for a freeze-thaw cycle so that the utilities that we installed deep under the roadway have a chance to, if we didn't get adequate compaction or if there's some other issues under there, we get a year to kind of move around and make sure we're not going to damage the roadway before we do our final paving. So common construction concerns, tree impacts. So one thing we've started to do actually a little more frequently with these projects is we do review the tree locations, and we try and get those marked for you ahead of time so that we let folks know, hey, here's a tree. It may leave more because of utilities typically, but what we'd like to do is certainly meet with you guys as well. If you do have concerns with a tree on your property that may be near your sanitary or water service, there are certainly options we can explore to maybe avoid impacts to those trees, but we will make that information available. Turf and driveway restoration. So if you have a concrete or a bituminous driveway now, you will be getting a concrete or bituminous driveway after construction. When we install the curb, what also we need to do is install a 5-foot concrete apron from the curb 5 feet up to your driveway. And that allows us to provide drainage to your driveway. And it just helps keep the water off your driveway. So that is a city standard, and we install that in all our driveways. Beyond that 5 feet, again, if you have concrete now or bituminous now, that's the patch we'll be putting in. And as far as turf goes, once we get through the project closer to that September timeframe, you will see them go out there. We do restore our boulevard areas in the form of seed versus sod. We've just found over the years that tie-in from where we have our excavations, our construction, to your existing yard, just in the year following, just looks so much nicer with the seed, and it tends to take a lot better as well for a nice lush yard. Driveway access will be maintained for the majority of the project. There will be exceptions, obviously, during utility installation. Both of our sanitary and our water main is pretty deep out there. You're looking at anywhere from 8 to 12 feet that they'll be digging down to put that main line in. Also, there's, in the event of wet weather, unfortunately, we don't have a lot to say with Mother Nature. We do try and coordinate our construction activities to avoid a 100-year rain event when we're opening up the road. But certainly, once that road gets wet, it does take a little time for that to dry up. So do expect some delays just with a wet subgrade. Also with curb and driveway paving, once they put that curb in front of your property or that concrete apron, it does require a 7-day cure period, and we will certainly make that information available to you a few days ahead of time. You can plan to park your vehicle on a nearby street. Also more and more we're seeing electric vehicles. So if you do have an electric vehicle and you'll be out of your driveway, whether it be for the curb or for driveway paving, please feel free to contact me, and we'll make sure that we coordinate a charging station for you. Special needs and events, if you have anything coming up, even if you know now for next year, feel free to contact me and let me know. We do take that into consideration. Contractors try not to work on Saturdays, but the City of St. Anthony does allow that for construction purposes to get projects done in a timely manner. They are allowed to work on Saturdays. So if you have a wedding or family event or anything like that, please let us know ahead of time. The sooner the better always. Sprinkler systems and visible fencing, again, we love to know about that stuff ahead of time. Whether it be just marking it with flags that you may have or having your sprinkler guy come out and just marking where those heads are. We do like to know that ahead of time, especially for the contractor. With regards to the sprinkler, he can cut that sprinkler system off so that you can still access a number of the zones to your property. Once we hit those unexpectedly, there's a little bit of a delay to get that fully restored for you guys. Mail and garbage service. I know there are no mailboxes out there, so since the mail is delivered on foot, you will see no difference there. As far as garbage goes during construction, typically what we'll ask you to do is to put your address on a piece of duct tape or packing tape, anything you have available. Put that on your garbage, and the contractor will actually move that to a designated area for the haulers to take. So you should see no difference there, aside from just getting your garbage can out the night before. Private utilities, we actually coordinate with a number of meetings with private utilities out there and provide them an opportunity to plan for upgrades out there if they need to, or to relocate their facilities as necessary. We don't require them to upgrade or relocate their facilities. This is something we work together on. So as we have these meetings moving forward, we'll certainly let folks know if there's going to be any relocation out there. Temporary water service, before we start taking out your water main and reinstalling it, we will put everyone on temporary water. What that consists of is putting a smaller water main pipe. It ultimately typically runs in front of your front yards. And then what we'll do is we'll install a small service that will connect into your outside spigot. So you should see no difference in your water operation throughout the course of construction. So, yep. So we will certainly make sure that you guys everything is working and operational before we start. Driveway replacement, I know we touched on that a little bit, but the city does offer a reimbursement to property owners that are planning on replacing their entire driveway. So if you choose to replace your driveway, if you have a concrete one that's seen its days and you'd like to replace it, what we do is you can coordinate getting those quotes separately. We can certainly check with the contractor to see if he's interested in that work. It has been our experience that they try and shy away from the private work. But we'll make those contractors that do the driveway replacements available to folks. But for what we would actually pay our contractor to do to restore your driveway due to construction, we will actually make that payment to your contractor. So what we like to do is have your contractor do the work if you're having your whole driveway done, and the city will make direct payment to your contractor for that. Again, what you'll be reimbursed is what we would pay our contractor, and we will actually make that available to you once we open bids in the spring. Sump pump connections, again, we will be installing those drain tile connections out there, so that'll be something that you guys will have an opportunity to tie into versus sending those into your utility sinks or anything like that, which is not allowed actually. So if you have a sump pump and you're interested in making that connection into our storm sewer system, please contact me and we can certainly do that. So our assessment policy, which was actually just recently amended here in 2020, the city does assess up to a 30-foot wide 10-ton design roadway. In the past, we have done our assessments based on a front foot basis, and we've actually changed that to a per unit basis. So the percentage, the 35% for residential has remained the same. But what we do it based on, if you're an interior lot, which is the majority of the folks on the road, you'll be assessed for 1 unit. If you're a corner lot, you'll be assessed a half a unit for each roadway. So for the few folks that are actually on 32nd and either Croft or Skycroft, you probably saw a half a unit for this year's project, and then you'll see a half a unit for the 2021 project. As far as the improvement cost goes, so we do assess for both the street, the storm sewer, and actually the water main. And the only portion of the water main that we assess for would be just for the actual service replacement at your property, which includes the curb stop and the connection. So that's just a pretty small assessment on there, but that is also included. And we do follow the Chapter 429 project or improvement bonds process, which does include holding a number of meetings, discussing those assessment amounts with folks, and then following through with that state statute. So the process follows, again, the 429 process. If you do have an objection, the appeal must be presented in writing prior to the hearing, and that's for the assessment hearing. So we'll have both a public, I believe the public improvement hearing that was shortly after the feasibility was accepted, and then the assessment hearing is typically held in March. So the notice of the appeal must be filed within 30 days of adoption of the assessments, and those assessments are typically adopted in October, November timeline. So the interest rate is set at the time of the assessment certification, typically which is just 2% above what the current bonding rate is. So the folks that are proposed to be assessed with this reconstruction project are identified here. So the assessments, because we're doing utility and street improvements, those assessments may be paid over a 15-year period. So to pay off for the full assessment to avoid any interest, that date would be November 30th of 2021. You also can do a partial payment anytime after that, but it does need to be received by November 1st to avoid additional interest beyond that. So how you can actually opt in to have that assessment included on your property taxes versus paying it, the best part is you don't have to do anything. If you choose to not pay that by November 30th, that will actually automatically roll over onto your property taxes. And that interest rate is determined at the time of the sale of the bond, and that's going to be 2% over those proven costs, which in the past have been, anywhere between that 4 and 5% range. Project schedule. So the council did authorize the preparation of the feasibility study in May. They accepted that report in August. This is our first public informational meeting. What our intent is, and at the end you will see my contact information. There's a number of folks that we'd love to meet with you guys and do some on-site meetings. If you have concerns about landscaping, I know there's a property out there with a rain garden, any specialty driveways, we'd love to be able to meet out there and discuss your concerns. So what we're hoping is to have those meetings over October and November. If we're lucky, maybe some of the snow will go away so we can see what's going on out there, but I'd certainly love for you to contact me and we can set something up to meet with you individually. We plan on the council approving plans and authorizing that we can go out for bidding with contractors in December. The intent is to open bids and compute those assessments in January. We will hold a second public informational meeting in February where we'll present that information and what those anticipated assessments are going to be prior to the public hearing and the award of the contract. So you'll have an opportunity to know what those costs are prior to the formal meeting with the City Council. Next, you'll see the award the sale of the bonds. Typically, they'll begin construction in that May-June timeline. We found more, they've been starting closer and closer to June. St. Anthony has a lot of clayey soils, and once those get wet in the spring, it's really hard to come back from that. So we like to say more just that late spring, early summer as the weather allows. Substantial completion is going to be in that fall time period, and substantial completion is typically you can drive on the road. You can access your driveway with little disruption. And then what you'll see in this late fall, early winter timeframe, and then even in the spring of 2022 is punch list items. And by punch list, we mean miscellaneous project cleanup, some other restoration items that may have not been able to be completed right away, installation, those types of items. And then final paving would be in the spring, potentially early summer of 2022. Notifications, additional information. So once construction starts, we do send out weekly updates letting folks know, hey, here's what happened this week, here's what's anticipated for next week. And, you know, we try and put some educational items in there. You know, if you see lath or stakes in your yard, or, you know, what's coming up next and how can you best navigate if there's going to be a detour or road closure. So we like to make that as much information available to folks as possible. And if you'd like to sign up, you can actually have those emailed to you. So if you go to the city's website under the projects tab, you can sign up to receive those emails automatically. Additional information, so if you haven't gone through the reconstruction process before, we actually under the city's website, under the projects tab, there's also a topic for St. Anthony Village reconstruction process, which has just a ton of information as far as what to expect. You know, what's construction going to look like? What's it going to look like if it rains too much and everything gets wet? So there's plenty of photos and a nice description of everything for you to just kind of take a look at and be prepared for construction. And then if you have any questions, we can open it up at this time for folks to ask individual questions. And also my contact information as well as Justin's is there. Again, we'd love to hear from you folks so that if we can meet out there and take a look at your property before the snow hits here this year yet, we'd certainly love to do that so that we're prepared for construction next year.
All right, so if anyone has any questions, if you can hit the raise your hand button or just turn on your video and wave, and I'd be happy to answer your question for you. Well, if we receive no questions, just to let you know, we will have other public information meetings kind of throughout the winter here that you'll be notified of. We'll have one, I believe Katie mentioned, in January or February, that time frame. Once we get the bids back, we'll present those costs to you, and then we'll kind of go through the same presentation for the folks that weren't able to attend the first time. Again, in the meantime, if you have any questions, you have our contact information. You have mine from the letter that was mailed to you, and then here from the presentation. Feel free to give me a call. I've talked to a number of your neighbors already who indicated they couldn't be here tonight, but they wanted to chat about the project. So more than happy to talk about it.
And also, Justin, if I can just chime in, this presentation will be made available on the website as well. So if your neighbors that couldn't be here would like to access this, feel free to let them know it will be available on the website.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for attending, and we will be in touch with you all through mail, and some of the individuals we'll actually meet with on property. Like Katie said, if you want us to meet with you specifically out on property, we will be more than happy to do that. So thanks everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.